Hi friends, welcome to my channel, back with another episode, and this week we're focusing on vulnerability, healing, and the mind, body, and spirit connection. So today's episode is how trauma is connected to transformation, and really what I wish I knew about trauma and transformation. So let's get into it. And for those of you that don't know me, and this might be the first episode that you're watching, or really just haven't met me in person, my name is Leilani. I am a mom, I am a creative, I am multifaceted, multi-passionate woman, Renaissance woman, I would say. And I also have a deep passion for really authenticity and sharing truths and just being a vessel for all that is meant to be shared in this present time, in this new age of life. And yeah, that might shorten as I make these videos, but that's what wanted to come through today. So trauma and transformation, these are very heavily interrelated and interconnected. And I would say the top thing that I wish I knew just in this journey, or even before, was that a lot of the things that I went through were the very medicine and the very catalyst that I needed to get me to this point. And at the time, there was a part of me that understood that. There was a part of me that kind of knew that I had to experience certain challenges because it was shaping me. But at the same time, it did not make it any easier. And there was also moments prior to that where I really didn't know. I didn't understand why certain things were happening to me, or so I thought, right? That I thought they were happening to me, but they were actually happening for me. And I could speak on a few things, I would say. I could speak on a few things, but I would say that in this life, I think I chose to deal with what could be considered more emotional trauma and, in a way, relational trauma, as opposed to like physical trauma. Although everything is interrelated and interconnected, and at some point or another, like, you will see the connection in that. But for me, the greatest lessons that I've been given so far is really about learning to love myself fully, and really being stripped away of anything that isn't true or in alignment with what God has for me. And that has shown up as really being in previous situations where I had to question everything. I had to question myself. I had to question God himself. I had to question if he was really there. I had to question if things were ever going to get better. I had to question, if I really, like, if there was even a purpose of me being here. Like, I had to get to those moments, and you know, that could be traumatic. That could be traumatic. Although I'm not going to feed that narrative, because again, trauma can lead you to transformation. And you know, I honestly, I haven't really looked up the definition, but to me, what I can perceive it as is a set of circumstances or lessons, situations that cause you to forget the truth of who you are. Okay? So it's a certain set of circumstances, situations, lessons that cause or contribute to forgetting who you truly are. Because when you forget who you are, it is easy to play into a certain narrative that may feel diminishing, that may feel where you are powerless, and that may feel that things are happening to you. And this is really, really tricky, especially when it is trauma that you can still truly feel, especially when it's in your body. I think when it's in your body, there's another, well, it really depends on the person, you know, it depends on the person, because sometimes people assume that because it is a physical thing, it might be worse. But a lot of pain, really, a lot of pain, which correlates to trauma, is a mental. It is the mind. And although some of that residual trauma may be stored into your body, right? Really, primarily, it is in your mind. And it's I know this is a heavy topic for some people, especially if you are someone who is prone to avoiding strong feelings, or just shifting or focusing on something that was really uncomfortable for you, or that really hurt you and caused you pain. I know that this can be excuse me. I know that this can be difficult. Excuse me. And I just want to say that everything that I speak on is because I have experienced some form of it, and I also know what it is that I would have wanted to hear when I was going through certain things. And at the same time, I respect your sovereignty, and I respect that you are an individual and your experience may be and most likely is different from mine. So you may not have the exact same perception as me, but I am here to fully just speak from a place of love, and speak from a place of authenticity, really. And yeah, trauma is a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing, because when you begin to understand that certain ways that you behave, certain ways that you react, are a result of that trauma, and you come to the realization that you no longer want your trauma to define you. You no longer want your trauma to be the one that is in control or taking the wheel. When you come to that realization, there is a lot of grief. There is a lot of grief with that, because there was once this idea, or once this narrative, that this trauma, this situation, this person, this whatever it was the cause, or was the sole reason for you to be the way that you are now. Or maybe even why certain things have not transpired in your life right now. Why you may not be in the place that you want to be, or be the person that you want to be because of that, right? And the thing is, while these moments and these situations and these relationships can have a level of impact and can have a level of just, again, contributing to you forgetting who you truly are, when you get to a point where you no longer want your trauma to define you, you need to let go. You need to tell a new story. So I thought I would say this in a future video, but I actually feel ready to share this, and I have so much gratitude and thank you, God, for giving me the courage to speak on this. And may I speak from a place of truth. May I speak from a place of clarity. May I speak from a place of really just love, your love, Lord. And a lot of what I would say my trauma stemmed from was my relationships with men, and also women, but I think with men, I want to share it in this case specifically because it started fairly early. It started fairly young. And part of that started with the relationship that I had with my dad. And I love him. Like, that's my dad, right? And he has inspired me in many ways, and he has really great qualities about him that in a way are also part of me, right? Because I am his DNA. But there is a lot of things that also contributed to my lack of trust in men, and also I would say a level of not respecting nor believing that good men exist and that men with pure intentions exist. And I'm speaking on this because I know that there's someone out there, there's either a woman or a man who may be suffering from that relationship right now. And I want to say that the relationship that you have with a specific individual does not define an entire gender, an entire race, an entire religion, an entire just demographic of people, okay? And it's very easy to put ourselves into that because of one experience, or maybe even several experiences, that we kind of put everyone into the same category and box and assume that everybody's the same. So that's what happened with me, where I early on had a very conditional relationship And because the relationship was conditional, and because the relationship didn't feel safe emotionally, that was kind of how I started relating to men. And that is how or in a way I thought that was normal, right? Because that was what I was observing and experiencing. So, and that was a foundational way of shaping, right? Like that was a foundation for me. So if it's like, if that was the foundation, then what am I building on? So because of that, I entered relationships and I entered dynamics where that was mirrored to me, and that was reflected, and that was also heightened and amplified. And even though in certain situations, because certain traits were less obvious, or maybe it was a different version of the same thing, because it didn't seem the exact same way, I thought that maybe there was, maybe it was different, or that, I really don't know. I thought I was, let's say I thought I thought I was doing better than I really was. I would say that. I thought I was doing better than I really was. And that was, when I mean better, I mean my judgment, my discernment, just the level of love and respect that I had for myself, that level, right? So because of that, there was a few relationships that I had that really did cause a lot of questioning and heartbreak, and what can be perceived as betrayal, and really, again, coming back to forgetting who I truly am. Because that's what really it was. It was like these certain things that happen, and these conversations, and these actions, and these relationships in general, what they were doing were contributing to me forgetting who I truly was. And in the moments, I was just like really flabbergasted at times, because I really wanted to just see the goodness, right? I really just wanted to see the light. And the thing is that we all have a dark part of us. We all have that, right? And majority of people do not allow their darkness to be brought to light. They allow it to be simmered. They allow it to be hidden. So when you allow it to be hidden for so long, it starts to control you, and it starts to control the relationships that you have. And that was what was happening with me. I myself had my own darkness that I did not want to face, but also that darkness within them, they did not want to address it, and they did not want to, honestly, probably there was a level of just not caring. Okay? And sometimes that can happen, right? Sometimes that can happen where you may come across people that genuinely don't care. They don't care. And another layer to that is that these people were also hurt. These people, they act a certain way, or they do certain things because they were hurt. And that doesn't excuse the behavior, because at the end of the day, we all have a choice. We all have a choice, okay? And sometimes it might feel like it would just be easier to not care. It would be easier to close your heart. It would be easier to, do things without a care in the world, and without considering other people's feelings, right? But there comes a point where the only person that you're hurting is yourself. The only person that you're hurting is yourself. So maybe that person inflicted pain on you purposely, and it sucked in the moment because it made you feel really crappy about yourself. But all they were doing was hurting themselves in the long run. And I can still say that I can have love for these people and these guys that I was in relationship with. And not because it was always rainbows and butterflies, because it really wasn't. Majority of the time it was not. But because I love myself so much, and I love God, and I know God loves me, that I can still love someone even when they hurt me. And I can still see the little boy in them. I can still see, the innocence in them. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be in relationship with them. It doesn't mean that I'm going to allow for words or actions or deeds that are coming from a place of fear or anger or volatility. That doesn't mean that. But there was some moments where I was allowing what they did to me to define me, and I don't allow that no longer, because there was a part of me that was allowing it. There was a part of me that was staying. There was a part of me that really didn't think I deserved better. And yeah, to some people, you could think and you could say like, well, I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't ask for any of this. But on a really, really, really subconscious level, unconscious level, you kind of did. You kind of did. And it wasn't to cause pain or suffering. It was to teach you. It was to remind you. It was to call you back home. So I thank you. I thank you for that deep remembrance. And for the person who is experiencing this in real time, right? I had a little bit of time to move through it. That's why I can speak on it. While also there is still some grief, right? There's still grief present. But I've had some time to move through it to be able to be clear and articulate this to you. But if you are experiencing this in real time, I know the heaviness that may be felt mentally, emotionally, physically. There's a heaviness that is felt when you are undergoing change. And trauma in its simplest form is a teacher. That's what it is. It's a teacher. And you can either choose to allow that trauma to define you, or you can choose to write a new story for yourself and choose to let that trauma simply just be a lesson and a teacher. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.